Hi guys, welcome to my channel, or if you guys are new here to my channel, my name is Alison and welcome to my channel. So if you guys are interested in beauty, lifestyle, fashion, haul videos, or some unboxing video, make sure you guys subscribe down below. You will be seeing that on my channel. So without further ado, let's get started on this video. So for today's video, this is a long overdue video. So this is a video about my favorite foundation in 2018. I should be doing this in the month of January or February, but now it's March and I'm going back to the favorite that I've been using in last year, but these items are still my favorite. So in 2018, I feel like my foundation preference is more of a lightweight finish, and it does look like skin, and also it does have like a light to medium coverage on the foundation. And I feel like the older that I get, I like the foundation to be more of a lightweight, skin-like. It's not as my last 2 years, which I would love a full coverage foundation, but now towards in 2018 and 19, I feel like I'm more of a lightweight foundation girl now, and I do like the foundation that looks more natural instead of a full-on foundation, like a full coverage foundation on my face. So those are the preference that I was going towards in 2018 and 19. So as for my skin situation and condition on my face, if you guys watch my foundation review, you guys might notice I do have acne-prone skin, and I do get oily during the summertime and more of a combo skin during the fall and winter time. So a lot of foundation, you'll notice it would break apart on my chin area just because I do have kind of like oily on the surface, but inside is more of a dry skin texture on the inside underneath the skin, if that makes sense. But this is a situation that I'm dealing with. So here I'm just gonna pick up a random foundation here that I already like. I'm not gonna go in with my most favorite or my least favorite, because these are all the foundation that I like, and depends of what I want the coverage of that day, then I'll be using this specific foundation. So first of all, I'm gonna talk about this foundation. This is a oldie but a goodie foundation. I've been having this for a very long time, and this is a Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. And I have to say, comparing this Giorgio Armani foundation with the Power Fabric, I thought this would be a lot nicer on my face, but it does break apart on my chin area, and it doesn't hold up as nice as this foundation, or it's just not as natural as the foundation on the Luminous Silk. This is a quick comparison between these two foundations. I like the Luminous Silk better than the Power Fabric because it gives me a more natural finish and it doesn't emphasize my white heads, but this one it does a little, so I would go for a Luminous Silk just for my personal preference. Okay, going back to this foundation, I love it because it gives me a very natural finish, and it does give me a very light, close to medium coverage, and I usually love using this foundation during the winter time. And the reason I like this foundation because a little amount that you use, it already gives you a very nice coverage on your face, and it blends nicely, blends easily. I do have to set all foundation with a setting powder because I do have a more of a oily skin. So setting with the setting powder on the foundation, it just helps me of a longevity of a foundation holding up on my skin throughout the day. So this is the foundation that I love during the winter time, and just the most natural finish of foundation. So at first when I heard about Luminous Silk, I was kind of scared about the name because I feel like it's more of a luminous finish, and with oily skin, you shouldn't use something that is a luminous finish, or you can if you don't need to wear foundation for a long time for the day. But for me, I usually go for a matte or semi-matte finish and set it with a setting powder because I do have oily skin. And rubbing this foundation in, it just feels like very lightweight, like water-like, but it still gives you a very nice coverage. You can see it just matched my skin tone very nicely. And actually, I think this is the only foundation that I used during my visit in Hong Kong last December. And if I bring a foundation with me while I'm traveling, which means I have trust with this foundation, because you want to look good while you're traveling, taking pictures, and you need a really trusty foundation to bring on with you. And moving on to the next foundation, this is really similar to the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation, and this is from NARS. This is Natural Radiant Long Wear Foundation, and I reviewed this foundation, I immediately just love it. And again, the name of this foundation is just immediately scared me away because it says Natural Radiant, and with oily skin, you want to stay away with those wording. It's a little heavier than the Luminous Silk. This one is really lightweight, and this one is just slightly like you can feel the foundation is on your face, and it does all the job that I want it to be on my face. Very natural finish, skin-like. And I do also use a loose setting powder to set with this foundation, but it still gets me oily after a 6 hours mark on my oily skin. But I just love the finish of it, and the little that you use on this foundation, it gives you more of a medium coverage in my opinion. So this one is more light to medium, and this is like a medium coverage for me. And you only need a very little amount on this foundation to give you the full face finish. And on this foundation, this is my current shade. I did get this in the shade Vienna, and actually because when I reviewed this foundation, it was in the shade Punjab, which is M1, and this is light 4.5, and this is M1. So this is like more of a summer shade for me, and this is like my winter shade. And I normally don't get two different shades of a one same brand, exact same foundation, but because this is how much I love this foundation, I have to get the right match shade on me for the winter time and one for the summertime. Okay, moving on next, this is again an oldie but a goodie drugstore foundation. I mentioned this a lot. I think when I start YouTube, I start mentioning this foundation because the price is reasonable for a drugstore foundation, and it does the job that I like it to be. So this is from a L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte Foundation. This is more of a matte foundation. I only use this more towards to the summertime, or if I go to Mexico, like a humid, hot weather, then I'll be using this foundation because it does hold up nicely on my oily skin. And as I told you guys earlier, I'm very oily during the summertime, and this holds up very nicely. Also, I set it with a loose setting powder, and I got this in the shade 104 Golden Beige. And I think I have a different shade earlier when I start YouTube. I was a lot tanner, and I already halfway through, but it's still in my makeup collection. I haven't touched it. So that is how much I love this foundation again. This is more of a medium to full coverage, I would say. And I really like this. I bring this with me while I was in Mexico. It holds up nicely in the humid and hot weather. And I just love how affordable a foundation it is and gives me a very nice coverage. It doesn't emphasize my pores, it doesn't show the texture of my skin, it just gives me the coverage that I needed on this foundation. So these three foundations that I just mentioned is more of a light / more towards to medium coverage of foundation. And moving along, I have this foundation that I added into my favorite foundation collection towards the end of the year, I believe, when I do a foundation review on this. So this is a La Prairie or La Prairie, I'm not sure how you guys pronounce the name. This is a very luxurious foundation. I have to say it worth the price because you're getting 2 refills. So when you purchase this foundation, it does come in an extra refill, and I'm already on the second one. This is how much I love this foundation. And I know 0.5 fluid ounce, which is not a lot on the cushion foundation, but again, with the refill that you have, which means it's more of a 1 fluid ounce foundation you're getting with the price. I know it's expensive, but it's worth the price just because it does have skincare product in this foundation. But after I use this foundation, I do get a lot of compliments on my skin. I do have people come up to me and say, your skin looks a lot better, what item are you using on your face? And all I'm using is just this foundation on top of my skin, and it just makes it a lot nicer. I know with dry skin people, they might not like this cushion foundation, but on my combo to oily skin in the winter time, I love it. I was actually kind of surprised that this foundation, it lasts longer than my other cushion foundation, because I feel like this foundation, it does have skincare infused in it, and it might looks better on more of a dry to combination skin, which is usually what cushion foundation, it works better with those skin type. But with this, I'm pretty surprised that it worked on my combo to oily skin. It does hold up very nice on the 8 hours mark again, and it just looks like it blur out my pores on the center of my face, and that's how nice this foundation is, because it looks like a nice reflection but not like kind of oily, greasy, like luminous foundation. It looks like I did a facial a day before on what it looks like now. So this foundation I highly recommend if you guys have the money to spend on it. And also, I'm surprised how little that you need to use for the full face. It gives you a very nice light to medium coverage, and I wasn't expect that. The little that you use, usually I'll go with a sponge right here, and I just only go with 2 pumps, and I will just focus on the center of my face, and that it just gives me a very nice light to medium coverage skin-like face. So at the end, I feel like it worth the price, because so little product that you need to use on one time to give you a very nice light medium coverage for your whole face. It's just worth the price. And for me, if someone give me a compliment about my skin because of a foundation, I would definitely keep using it, and I would definitely keep buying it, no matter how expensive this foundation is. But I feel like it really worth the price, because it makes my skin look healthier. It looks like younger, not necessarily looks younger, but a better skin just makes you look younger, like healthy skin looking. But the only downside on this foundation is the shade range. And I got this in the shade Pure Ivory Neutral 20. But I have to say, this foundation, it doesn't oxidize on me, but I feel like when the foundation set on my face and with the full face makeup on, it just looks a lot better, and the color, it kind of just like infused to my neck color, and that's something weird about this foundation, but it works now with my skin tone. So out of all this foundation, this is the most expensive foundation, and this is my most favorite foundation, and I hate myself for it. Okay, now moving on to the rest of the foundation here is more of a lightweight foundation. So when I want more of a skin-like, lightweight, like no makeup look, I will use this foundation on my face. So first of all, this is a YSL Touch Eclat all-in-one foundation. I'm not sure do you say this a foundation or CC cream, but it says it has a SPF 23 fresh dewy makeup natural medium coverage, long lasting hydration, oil free. So I got this in the shade BD40, and currently this shade is darker than my skin tone, but I would love to use this more of a fall time or spring time, because it just worked nicely on my skin. So first of all, this YSL foundation, I thought it's gonna be more of a light CC cream, kind of less coverage, but after you blend it onto your skin, it just looks a lot like, it still looks like you have makeup on, but a very light coverage layer of a makeup on top of your skin, if that makes sense. So here, this is the foundation on my back of my hand, and when you blend it onto your face, it feels like just like water. It's very lightweight, and this is like the lightest coverage feeling kind of foundation amount of this foundation that I have here. And this foundation, it does hold up nicely. I would say about 6 to 7 hours are starting to get oily, but with this foundation, it just feels very lightweight. It gives you like a very light coverage, but you can tell like you have foundation on. So this is like the foundation that I would love to use every day if I'm doing a more natural makeup look, but obviously now the shade is a lot darker than my skin tone. If you guys familiar with YSL makeup, then this is like the typical scent that you would smell it on their makeup products. So last but not least, this foundation, I'm pretty surprised that it worked on my skin tone and on my skin, like oily skin obviously. So this is from IT Cosmetics. This is the CC Plus Oil-Free Matte Poreless Finish Full Coverage Cream Plus Anti-Aging Hydrating Serum Plus SPF 40. This is a mouthful, long name foundation. IT Cosmetics always has that. But the reason that I say I was surprised, because the silver bottle, if you guys remember the silver bottle, I mentioned it on my channel that foundation, it irritates my skin. I was like kind of hopeless with a cosmetic on my skin because one of the ingredient in there, I'm not sure what it is. I still haven't figured it out. But that foundation, it breaks me out. After using that foundation, I was breaking out crazily. So I kind of stopped using it. I have to return it. And I was kind of scared to try out another cosmetic foundation. So this is something that surprisingly it works on my skin and it works so nice on my oily skin. And also one thing I like about this foundation is it does have an SPF 40 in it. And if you guys familiar with foundation, it has the SPF. It does most of the time, I'm saying most of the time, but not every time, you will get a flashback on it. But on this foundation, I just love how high coverage of SPF on it because most of it just like gives you a 20-25 of a coverage with the foundation, but this one it gives you a 40. So I feel like if I'm using this foundation, I just don't need to put on a sunscreen on. I was so surprised when I do my foundation review. You guys can check that out. It was like a medium coverage on a CC cream. I'm gonna show you guys and you guys know what I'm talking about. So here, this is what the foundation looks like. One swab, you can see it gives you that medium coverage. And this coverage, I'm just loving it because CC cream, you expect something lightweight, but this is like a medium coverage. And I have to say this foundation, it lasts me nicely. About 7 to 8 hours mark, I start to get oily. So I have to say this foundation, it works very well on my oily skin. Alright guys, so this is all the foundation that I keep using it and I'm going back and forth with all this foundation in the year of 2018. So if you guys like this video, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And also if you guys like foundation review and you guys are foundation junkie, make sure you guys subscribe down below to my channel and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!